The fastest car in America in 1987 was a Buick. It had no chrome, no racing stripes, no logo designed to be read from across the street. And it embarrassed every sports car on the continent. But the car that taught it how to do that was born 18 years earlier at a Dodge factory in Hamtramck, Michigan. For years, these type of cars have been the ones everyone steps out of the way for, without knowing why, without being able to name the feeling. For thousands of years, humans have associated darkness with uncertainty. Our ancestors couldn't see what waited beyond the firelight. Their brains filled the darkness with danger. Thousands of years later, our brains still do. That's why police limousines are black and executive SUVs are black, why special forces wear black and luxury brands launch black editions, and why a black sports car somehow feels faster than the exact same car painted yellow. Nothing mechanical has changed, only perception. Or has it? Because somewhere in American automotive history, two machines transformed black from a paint choice into a marketing weapon. One arrived at the peak of the muscle car era, while the other arrived just when everybody believed the muscle car was dead. This story begins long before either car rolled off an assembly line. It begins with a question almost nobody wants to ask. Why does removing color sometimes create more presence than adding it? But before we answer that, we have to travel back to a time when America was obsessed with doing the exact opposite. A time when everything was brighter, louder, and demanded attention, which made what happened next feel almost unnatural. The 1960s loved optimism, and the car industry proved it. High-impact colors, turquoise, lime green, sunfire yellow, vitamin C orange, chrome stretched across entire bumpers. Manufacturers competed to make cars impossible to ignore. The louder the color, the more successful the showroom. Then, the mood began changing. Television brought Vietnam into living rooms. Political assassinations shattered confidence. The optimism of the summer of love slowly gave way to uncertainty. And suddenly, all those bright colors began feeling strangely out of place. Against a sea of psychedelic paint, one black car looked completely different. That car was the Dodge Charger. The Charger simply arrived at exactly the right moment when the future would become darker. But history has a habit of repeating itself. Nearly 20 years later, America fell in love with excess all over again. By the mid-1980s, everything was colorful again. Neon, mirrored sunglasses, hair sprayed toward the sky. Glam rock music reflected the same energy. Leather pants, excessive makeup, sequins, everything sparkled. Then something started changing beneath the surface. Audiences grew tired of spectacle. They wanted authenticity, less polish and more substance. The shift happened almost overnight. Metallica's Black album sold 35 million copies. The cover was all black. It became the best-selling album of the decade. In Seattle, the grunge movement started to emerge. Heavy music moved decisively away from glam's theatrical excess toward something darker, heavier, and more restrained. And soon, every teenager wanted to look like the new rebels. The Buick GNX had appeared 4 years earlier, almost like it had seen the future first. While the decades celebrated color, the GNX erased it, just like a black album. 18 years separated the Charger and the GNX, yet both appeared at the exact moment when black started to take over almost every industry. Which raises an even bigger question. Why did these two cars succeed when countless other black cars disappeared into history? The designers who envisioned the Charger's sweeping double-diamond profile or the hidden headlights to communicate motion and balance. They weren't designing menace. They were trying to design something sleek and elegant. Then customers discovered something the designers hadn't fully anticipated. In 1969, Dodge offered what enthusiasts now call the triple black combination: black exterior paint, a black vinyl roof, and a black interior. On paper, it was simply another color and trim combination, but in reality, it transformed the Charger into something else entirely. The body lines absorbed the light. The hidden headlights disappeared into the grille. Every bright detail surrendered to the silhouette. Suddenly, people weren't looking at styling cues. They were looking at presence. Nearly 20 years later, Buick stumbled onto the same discovery. Only the Buick Grand National's triple black exterior was never an option. It was a corporate struggle. Buick's design studio refused to cooperate. No staff, no budget, not in the mood. So, a few rebels' minds found a loophole in the system: to pay someone outside the building who would. That's how the Grand National silhouette was born. Sketched off the books, then sculpted into a running prototype by an outside shop. Molly Designs, run by Rollin "Molly" Sanders. His idea? Strip the chrome, paint it black. No committee, no sign-off, just a contract, and far cheaper than fighting design staff for their time. Strip the signal, and you become unknowable. Unknowable is the most powerful thing a machine can be. Once again, black became more than paint. It became a design tool. Sometimes the strongest statement isn't what you add, it's what you refuse to show. Before we get to how these cars became immortal, there's one more detail we must not skip. It explains why black makes an object feel physically larger, even when its dimensions never change. Industrial designers understand something marketers eventually learned. The eye doesn't simply record what it sees, it interprets what it can't. Bright colors break an object into pieces. Highlights, trim, panel gaps. Your brain processes each one separately. Black reverses the process. It erases information. Instead of seeing details, your mind reconstructs a single, uninterrupted form. Larger and heavier, more imposing. The Charger no longer looked like a stylish coupe. It looked like every hero's nightmare. The GNX no longer looked like a Buick. It looked like the dark side of Buick. This wasn't about horsepower. It was perception. And perception can be just as powerful as performance. What is your perception telling you? The Charger or the GNX? Drop it in the comments. Which one made you step out of the way? Cars become icons twice. First in factories, then on film. The Charger became one of cinema's favorite antagonists. Hollywood noticed before the industry did. The Charger in Bullitt wasn't cast for its horsepower. It was cast for its face. It was black, and that image embedded itself into film grammar. Every director who needed a car to represent real power, the kind that doesn't explain itself, reached for darkness. By 1987, when the GNX appeared on American roads, the audience was already fluent. The GNX didn't need an introduction. Its viewers had been in school for 20 years, and when it made its appearance in the Fast and Furious franchise, it didn't matter whether audiences knew displacement figures. They remembered the silhouette. Attention attracts competition. Mystery creates respect. And darkness became its own performance modification. By the late 1990s, manufacturers noticed. By the 2000s, they commercialized it. By the 2020s, they couldn't stop selling it. Every black edition, Shadow Line, Dark Horse, Black Badge, owes something to a lesson these two cars accidentally taught the industry. That sometimes, what you remove creates more desire than what you add.